Hey everybody, Crafty Media is back, and today I'm going to be breaking down the latest episode of The Flash, Season 4, Episode 18, entitled Lose Yourself. I'm also going to be giving lots of theories and predictions about the Enlightenment and the Mystery Girl towards the end of the video. So please be warned, this video contains plenty of spoilers up until Season 4, Episode 18 and beyond. Now this episode was probably the most heartbreaking episode of the season so far, as we saw the death of Ralph Dibny, the elongated man. I must say, Ralph really grew on me this season as it went along, and I was devastated to see him go. In the most heart-wrenching scene, Barry says, "Fight it, Ralph, I'll save you," to which Ralph replies, "You already have, Barry," and then closes his eyes. Earlier in the episode, Ralph wanted to use the pocket dimension hopping Edwin Gauss, aka the Folded Man, to sneak up on Devoe and to kill him. As he explained, he didn't want to kill Devoe to protect himself, he wanted to protect his family. He wanted to protect Team Flash. There was a cool Easter egg in the form of this bottle of Gingold, which Barry offers as a peace offering after knocking Ralph out with a Superman punch. Now in the comics, Gingold is actually the source of the elongated man's abilities. Ralph Dibny was obsessed with Indian rubber men, and upon investigation he found that all of them drank Gingold, which was a drink made from the gingo fruit. He then made a super concentrated gingo juice and found that after drinking it he had the ability to stretch himself. I really enjoyed the way they portrayed Edwin Gauss. He of course had the power not only to travel to his own pocket dimension, as Cisco surmised, but he also had the ability to travel to any other pocket dimension. It was also very creative the way the Folded Man got his name from the hippie colony, and I think the reason they did this is a play on the Burning Man, which is actually an annual hippie festival in Black Rock City, Nevada. Ralph versus the T-Rex skeleton was a fun scene. Devoe, still in Izzy Bowin's body, was able to use Dwarfstar's power to shrink and then grow the T-Rex skeleton, which was an Easter egg for the T-Rex skeleton in the Jurassic Park movies. Devoe was then able to give the Jurassic Park skeleton life by using Black Bison's powers. In fact, I thought this episode was the first episode that really made use of all the bus meta-humans' powers. The scene where Devoe lays waste to Vibe, Killer Frost, and Barry is incredible. Devoe first uses Null's powers to make Barry the weight of a cement truck. Barry then phases through the floor and tries to use the Sonic Scepter, but before he can, gets hit with Izzy's Sonic Blast. Cisco throws a Vibe Blast out, but Devoe opens a breach of his own using the Folded Man's powers, and then directs the Vibe Blast back at Cisco, which was very reminiscent of the opening scene in X-Men Days of Future Past with the mutant Blink. He then touches Killer Frost and says, "Melt." This is of course a pun, as he's using Melting Point's powers on Killer Frost to melt her powers, bringing back Caitlin. Cisco and Harry later scan Caitlin and surmise that Devoe's Melting Point powers have scrambled her meta DNA, and that Killer Frost is no more. But is that really the end of Killer Frost? I don't think so. Usually when Melting Point can touch someone and remove their powers, he then gives the power to the next person that he touches. So I think that Caitlin will be able to get her Killer Frost powers and alter ego back. Plus it would be crazy for such a big character's arc to end in such a feeble way. So don't worry, Killer Frost will definitely be back in my opinion. Devoe has now absorbed all the remaining bus meta humans' powers except for one, and that is Fallout. If you remember, Fallout, aka Neil Borman, was unable to control his radiation powers and was sent to a former member of Team Flash, Tracy Brand. Tracy was trying to get him to get his powers under control. In fact, in next week's episode, we see Team Flash transporting Fallout with the help of Leo Snart, aka Citizen Cold. Citizen Cold is the Earth X version of Captain Cold and is a hero who we were introduced to when he fought against evil Oliver Queen and Overgirl. The episode also curiously saw Marlies getting her Deadpool on and deflecting energy blasts from Iris with her katana. Iris pulled the sword into her, allowing her time to send Marlies back into the pocket dimension. I personally found the scene a little bit weird, as there was no indication that Marlies had such skills in the past, so it kind of came out of nowhere. Jumping back to Devoe in the final scene, he was able to use Ralph Dibny's powers to look like his old self. And personally, I'm so happy to have Neil Sunderland's back as Clifford Devoe. He's just so menacing and adds a lot more weight to the character of the Thinker than his vessels did in the previous episodes. The elongated man's powers also keep him from aging, and his body is now strong enough to not be affected by his ever-expanding intelligence. However, this also means that Devoe no longer actually has need of the engineering brilliance of his wife to modify the chair or to prolong his life, or to travel between dimensions, and I think it's only a matter of time before Devoe disposes of her, which I believe will lead her to join forces with Team Flash to take down her husband. As the old saying goes, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. The Thinker also seemingly anticipated and took advantage of Harry's addiction to dark matter, and managed to siphon off some of that dark matter after Harry had seemingly overdosed. As he explained to Marlies, Harry's hubris, which I had to Google, means excessive pride or confidence, was his undoing. And then interestingly, Devoe finally says, and now the fire that burns down Team Flash will also light the path to enlightenment. It appears that dark matter is going to be the key to take the path to enlightenment. And what is this thing that will burn down Team Flash? When we look at the schematics, it seems to have some kind of rocket propulsion system. And I think this is actually a dark matter bomb. And that Devoe wants to detonate this dark matter bomb, turning all of Central City into metahumans. And of course, Devoe now has the power to absorb all these metahumans' powers if he wants to. And I think the Enlightenment is all about Devoe coming all powerful and enslaving the world. And what are these symbols exactly? They are clearly somehow tied to the Enlightenment, but we know they are also connected to when Barry came out of the Speed Force. We also saw them on Devoe's face, and they were even tattooed on Caitlyn's ex-boss's knuckles. And most interestingly, these symbols were being written by the mystery girl, who is assumed to be from the future. I think these symbols are in fact the language from the 30th century, the language of the United Planets, and the language of the time period where the Legion of Superheroes are from. This language is called INTERLAC. The INTERLAC alphabet was introduced in the Legion of Superheroes Volume 2, number 312. But how does Devoe know this language from the future? And how does it tie into the Enlightenment? And could it be that this mystery girl is in fact Jenni Ognats, who is a member of the Legion of Superheroes, sent back in time to help Team Flash defeat the Thinker? In the comics, Jenny goes by the codename XS, and during the Legion's first trip back to the 20th century, XS was separated from the rest of the team, and she ended up interacting with people who were basically her ancestors. Jenny specifically also became friends with her cousin, Bart Allen, who is also from the 31st century. If we look at the lineage of Jenny, she is the daughter of Dawn Allen. Dawn Allen has a twin, Don. Dawn and Don are the children of Barry and Iris, and they were born in the 30th century. Time travel can be so confusing, but I love it! I know the show has taken a bit of a break from time travel this season, but there is no way you can remove time travel storylines from The Flash. I mean, that's what makes The Flash The Flash. In the first episode of the season, just after Barry came out of the Speed Force, Barry said, "We're gonna need more diapers," along with a lot of other gibberish. But this could logically be something that Barry says when he finds out that Iris is pregnant with twins. The Speed Force has, of course, access to all time, and that was where Barry was trapped. Grant Gustin commented on what Barry said when he first came out of the Speed Force and was writing in this INTERLAC language and talking gibberish. He was talking all over the place, and elements of that will show up throughout the season and may already have. We'll circle back, I would imagine, at some point this season and connect all of them for you. But yeah, that was all very important. Everything he said at the beginning of the year. So personally, I can't wait to find out what happens in the last few episodes. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. For those of you who are finding me for the first time, I do videos on The Flash and other comic book, TV shows and movies, DC, Marvel,